Okay, today I'm looking at a DVB-T European television dongle that I'm going to use as an SDR receiver. You can buy these things on Amazon or various places for under $15, and it comes with the dongle and a little antenna and a remote control, but the remote control is more or less useless if you're going to use it as an SDR. So this is all you need for hardware, and then there's a few pieces of software to download. So I'm going to install this, fresh install on this new computer, refurbished computer that I just purchased. So we'll go ahead and get started. I've installed the USB dongle here on the back of the computer, as you can see, just in one of the rear panel USB ports. And I've placed the antenna up here for now. This probably isn't the best place for the antenna. It might be better somewhere else, but the supplied wire isn't real long, so this will have to do. Okay, there's ultimately going to be 3 applications that I'm going to download and install on the computer. The first 2 are obtained from the SDR Sharp website, which is just www.sdrsharp.com. And I'm on their downloads page, and this is currently January 2014, so I'm sure this will change as time goes on. But as of today, the 2 applications that I'm going to install from this website is, first of all, the ADSB Sharp current version, and that will allow me to receive the squawk data from the aircraft. And then the second application I'm going to install is the SDR Sharp, which is the actual SDR receiver software. But I'm not going to install this stable release. I'm going to come down here and go under the RTL-SDR users links and download this version. This version contains a driver for the dongle that I've purchased. So I'm going to go ahead and download these 2 and then get them in. Okay, I've got the 2 install files downloaded, and I'm just going to move those to a folder on my hard drive that I've created called SDR, and I will extract them here. Okay, and I've extracted these files here to a folder on my hard drive, and I'm going to go into each one, and there is just an install batch file to run, and that will download and install the rest of the software. That'll only take a couple minutes to run. Okay, once you run the install batch file, it creates another folder in this subfolder, and these are all the files associated with the application. The SDR Sharp application is very similar. Now, the first time that this is run, and I believe you only have to do this once, you need to run this application here, zadig.exe, and this sets up the communication with the dongle. Okay, so then you get this window here, and I think what you want to do is go under the options pull down and do list all devices. And again, you got to make sure your dongle is plugged in for this part. And you want to be careful and make sure that you pick the correct choice here. If you choose one of the other USB choices here, you could screw up one of those devices, and you may have to reinstall device drivers. But the one that you want to pick is, or at least the one that I've been picking for these installs, is the bulk-in interface on interface 0. So choose that and then click Install Driver. Now, it's also important to note that you should not install the drivers that come with the dongle. Just plug the dongle into your USB port, and you'll use these drivers in this application. So then we want to ignore this warning and let the driver install. This should take a couple minutes. Okay, so the driver was installed successfully, and everything looks to be working. So I'll just close this application, and then we can start up the ADSB Sharp application. And you can see all this application is this window with some settings, and I think you can pretty much leave everything as a default, and you hit start. And let's see, I want to allow that, and you can see here there are things happening, but we won't be able to see any aircraft until we download and install the third application, which is called Virtual Radar Server. But at this point we can see that everything is connected, and the dongle is working and communicating with the software. Okay, so here's the third application that I'm going to download and install, and it's on virtualradarserver.co.uk. So I'm going to go to the download page, and I'm going to choose, to begin with, this choice. And that'll take a few more seconds. And unlike the other applications, which are fairly light, this one has its own installer. So I'm going to run this right from here and just let it install. And of course I'm just going to accept all these license agreements and warnings and everything. And I'm going to just let that put itself in its default location. And I'm going to leave the default HTTP port settings. And you can just leave that as the default as well. And I think you can use this if you want other computers to connect to this and be able to view the data that this thing serves. You can use this on your home network and look at the data from another computer. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just use it on this machine only, so I'm not going to enable that. And so there's all the settings, and we'll go ahead and let that install. And then now everything should be installed. I'll open the application and set the option. Okay, once everything is installed, I am going to choose from the start menu the Virtual Radar Server application. And the first time this runs, and until you get things all completely set up properly, you're going to get a couple of error messages here. One is about the base station database, and then there's another one about flight route data. We'll cover that stuff a little bit later. For now I'm going to say OK and just let the application start. Here's the kind of the main application's web server page. And before we use this, we need to set up a few options in order to enable this thing to talk to the receiver. So we're going to go into Options. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is go to the Receivers section and set up a new receiver. And up here under the options, you can give it a name. I'm just going to leave mine Receiver, but you can change that. I think you can put in a location. The data source is the important option to change, and under the pull down here we're going to want to choose the AVR or Beast raw feed, and then we're going to leave this on network. Reconnect at startup I'm going to leave alone, and then the other option that we want to change is this port setting, and you can see that the ADSB Sharp is working with port 47806, so we're going to change this one to the same number so that they will communicate. 47806. Okay, and then the rest of the options should be able to be left at the defaults, and then you should be able to do test connection, and this will test whether or not you can communicate with your dongle. And you can see I've got my settings all correct, so it says a connection can be made. So once that's the case, we can say OK to that. Okay, so once that's set, you want to go back up to the receiver's main section here and go under the options. And website receiver, we're going to change that and choose receiver, which is the new receiver that we created. And I'm actually going to change all three of these, although I don't think the third one is necessary. I think that's for a flight simulator program. So once that's all set, we should be able to say OK, and this page I think will disappear. And you can also see down here in the lower left there were some red warning messages that existed, and those have disappeared, letting us know that things are set up properly. We still need to do a little work, but in order to kind of see some things on the map, these are the basic settings, and we should be able to get going with that. Okay, so once that's all, once you're able to close that page and the settings have all set, you'll see on this line here, this is the line that indicates whether or not the software is communicating with the dongle, and you can kind of see it is. There's some messages, and it's even telling us it's tracking some aircraft. Now, in order to see things on the map, we're going to click this link here, which is a link to the virtual radar server on this machine, and that's going to start up a web page which will, on the left side, have a Google Maps view, and on the right side we'll have information. Okay, now the first time this starts up, it's centered around I think West Dayton or Slough in England, in the UK. But of course, for me, I'm not going to want to be there. I think there is a setting in the virtual radar server application where you can set up a default startup location if you put your latitude and longitude in. But I neglected to do that, so I'm just going to kind of pan around here and try and find my house, which is in the northeast part of Connecticut. And you can already see there on my screen there is an aircraft being shown somewhere in the area. And then over on the right side you can see some particulars about that aircraft. And it's also showing some other ones that it's tracking, but it doesn't have all the information about those just yet. Now that everything's working for the most part, I know that I'm able to receive and kind of see some aircraft on the screen there, as you can see. I'm not getting the aircraft data, and that is because of some of the error messages that I showed early on when we did the installation and kind of initial startup. So to add on some of these resources, the best page to kind of look at and help you through that, I found, is a forum post on forum.virtualradarserver.com or .co.uk, and this is a sticky post called basestation.sqb, or SQB rather, and you can kind of read through this whole page, and there's some various links and instructions on what to do. So I'm going to try and follow what they're explaining here, and the first thing that I'm going to do is download the SBS Resources installer, and I'm going to extract or link to the database that's installed in there to kind of link to my software. So the first thing I'll do is click on this link that they have here and go through the download and install of this application. Okay, so I'm on the SBS Resources page, and I'm going to download and run. Looks like it's going to take a little while. As they explained on the page, the file is a little bit large. So I'll wait for this to download, and once it's finished, I should be able to click on this and run it to install the SBS Resources application. Okay, as indicated in the forum post, I've got the SBS Resources application installed, and you can see here I've opened up a file browser, and I'm in the folders of the installed application. And as indicated, there is a registration folder with the basestation.sqb file. That's the actual database file. And then there's a few folders here with the operator logos, you can see there, and then the silhouette logos for the various aircraft. Now, one thing that I've noticed that they don't mention in the forum post is there's a few folders here of operator logos. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to try and combine these into one. I'm going to make a new folder and then copy all these in to the new folder, and then point my virtual radar at that new folder just so that it can capture all of these, because I think it can only look in one folder at a time. So I'll try that. I don't know if it'll help, but we'll try it. Okay, so I'm back in the virtual radar server, and I've gone into the tools options pull down again, and I'm going to point some of these locations towards the BSBS resources folder that was indicated. So SBS resources files, and this is for the database, so I'm going to go into registration and pick that, and that should be the database that we need. Okay, so now the flags folder, I'm going to point in the same folder here, except I'm going to pick my operator's logo combined folder that I made by copying the contents of each of these folders to here. I found that there were some duplicated files, so I just didn't copy the duplicated ones, but we'll see what happens there. So that chooses that, and then we're going to go up here, and I'm going to populate the silhouettes folder, which is also in the same location, the SBS resources, and that is going to just be the silhouette logos. Okay, and that populates that. Pictures folder, I'm not sure what goes in there just yet. Might have to do a little further research on that. But so now what I'm going to do is say OK, and I am going to close and reopen everything just so all these new settings take effect. I don't think we need to close the ADSB Sharp application. I think we can leave that open and just restart the virtual radar server application. And everything looks good, so I'm going to launch the web server again. And notice when I opened that up this time, I didn't get any error messages. Okay, so currently I'm not tracking any aircraft that are transmitting pertinent data, but we'll see what happens as time wears on a little bit, see if we get any silhouettes. So then the last thing that I'm going to do here today is I'm going to install the virtual radar server database writer plugin, and just access that by clicking that link. And let's see, I think, yeah, we need to scroll down and choose this database writer plugin. And let's see, there's a link here. We'll click on that and let that install. It might be a good idea to close down the virtual radar before I actually install that, so I will go ahead and do that. And then close this page too while I'm at it, and then run this. Okay, just going through all the standard setup here, and let it do it. Okay, that was pretty quick. So I am going to open up virtual radar server again, and then I think we need to go under the tools, and we need to go to plugins, and this needs to now be enabled. So we'll click enabled. And let's see, only update the plugin created. I'm going to uncheck that because I think the database that I installed is not database created. I'm going to choose my receiver, and then this is the correct database that we already have the software pointed to, and I'm going to say OK. And everything looks like it's enabled. I'm going to close that, and I am going to reopen this again, and that should allow this software to write information about the flights that it tracks here, and that'll just help make things a little more robust. So now I just got to wait for an airplane to fly over that's transmitting its call sign, and we should be able to see some more data about it. Okay, there we've got You can see a fair number of planes here, and the silhouettes and the carrier flags are showing up. And if you click on one of those, you get the particulars of what the aircraft is, what the model is, what its route is, and some other particulars. So there you have it. Next project will be to build an external antenna. This thing seems to be working pretty good, just with the little supplied antenna here down in the cellar. I mean, there's the outside, so I mean that works just fine right here. I can just imagine how well it'll work with an outside antenna.